back to another video on the L9000. Funny story though, is this video is going to be in reverse time because I've actually recorded all the footage already and done everything that I'm going to do to the truck, minus a few tidying up odds and ends. Problem is, I either never recorded or accidentally deleted any kind of intro and explanation to what I am going to do in the course of this video. So that's what I'm giving you right now. So a couple things we're going to accomplish. One is some new seating, exciting stuff. And the other is HVAC. So the little details that make driving something like this a whole lot more enjoyable and a whole lot more comfortable. So with that being said, this is splicing together video over the course of the last 2-3 weeks, something like that. So again, that's kind of why I haven't had a ton of videos in the last few weeks. It's been holidays, but I'm in the middle of 3 or 4 different projects on 2 different trucks, and trying to make that all work into a video every week or so sometimes gets tough. So I hope you enjoy, and here we go.
So here's what we got. Now this is another auction buy. I've kind of caught the auction bug. Good way to pick up a whole lot of things you didn't even know you needed, right? For relatively inexpensive. So I picked this up at an auction. I gave about $200 for it. And looking it up, this is a Sears model. They still basically make this same model. I'm sure it's been upgraded in terms of some of the controls and functions, but it's not that old. I'd put this at probably 10 years old. It is leather. The color obviously is really close match to my interior on the L9000. There is starting to show some wear on the leather. For what I'm going to do with it though, that'll probably never wear out. Both adjustments on the, see, well, this is a roller. And as you change it one direction or the other, that seat rest stays either, I'm going down now. There, see, now we're back up a little bit. So, nice and adjustable, and they both do in fact work. All of the adjustments in fact work. There's like angle, slide, seat pad angle, another angle, and another angle. I don't know what they all do. We'll worry about it once we get it in there. But it was a little dirty. It looks like whoever the driver was had a pet, dog or cat, so there was pet hair all over this dang thing. So I shot some cleaner degreaser all over it, took it outside and hosed it off, and we'll let this dry inside here. But it's got the nice cover on it to hide the workings. The cover's actually intact. All the clips are intact. Showing a little bit of wear in the back edge, but no big deal. You can see our controls. I think the only thing that's missing or really broken, I shouldn't say that, there's 2 things. One is, might have been a bigger guy, or just, I don't know, whoever, but it's got a little bend in the pan. I can live with that. The other thing is half that trim is missing right there. So, yeah, there it goes. It works. It's going up. Look at that. And it's super comfortable, to be honest with you. This is an awesome seat. So for $200, I'm not going to complain. This is, in today's dollars, this is a $1,200 seat. So, when it was new, whatever, 5-10 years ago, this, was probably still an $800 seat anyway. So it's not the most expensive air seat you can buy, but it's definitely not the cheapest, being that it's leather. And then also, obviously, some of you guys probably already know, but those other 2 buttons are both upper and lower lumbar supports. So there's must be little bladders inside there and they both work. So anyway, it's cleaned up. It's a standard base, so I can use what I've got, and then I'll take my best upper and lower cushions that I have, because my passenger and driver seat currently are interchangeable, and I will put the best of what I got onto one and take my driver's air seat and give it to my wife on the passenger side. So I'm going to get after making some switches here. All right, guys. So after the cleaning, of course, the first order of business, looks like I got a little chunk of something in there. There. Sits a little better. The only really thing broken I can find on this seat is this control panel. You can see the plastic's cracked out. So I skipped the details, but and by the way, I did test this. I unhooked this 1/4-inch line and hooked up another one that I had adapted to an air chuck and did put air to it. Everything works. All the lumbar bags work. The main bag works. Switches all work. Everything's good. So it's actually still got a little air in the bag left that it's working off of. So what I'm going to do is use some of my trusty old transition strip that I love using for interior applications. I'm going to use that as a support piece to hold this on where it belongs. And hopefully it works pretty well. It was missing one screw, so that's the one that came with it, and I found it's a straight slot, of course, but regardless, it's the same or similar thread pitch, so that spreads the load out nice and almost looks like it belongs. This gives you a good comparison on the color match. I don't think we could get much more perfect. Man, they're close. The only really oddball color is this lower that I had upholstered that they didn't quite get right. You know, the terms of the tones, you know, on this vinyl to that leather, I think it's close to exact as you're ever going to get. So this will be my wife's new seat. And the difference being, though, that I do have to reuse that plate, that mounting plate. If you guys will remember, probably not, but way back when, that plate was really rusted and nasty looking, so I carpeted it, which was an awesome solution. But you can see you have to unbolt the plate out of the truck, and then once it's free like this, you can get your hand in to undo the front two of that 4-bolt flange. But you can see it's got an offset for the driver's seat. So that we're gonna have to reuse. And then I'm guessing, because that flange will be the same as the flange from seat to seat, so we're fine there. If you're looking at the height too, this one's aired out, this one's not. So we've got some. I also have plenty of headroom. You can see when I sit down, I'm much closer. We're good. Don't worry about that. This one just has a little more air in it at the moment. I think what we're going to do, though, is we're going to change, if it's not too much trouble anyway, and maybe it'll be too much trouble, in fact, but this driver's seat, it's just on the back, but it's got some tearing on that rear vinyl. This one's in much better shape. This was the old passenger seat. This one is missing an armrest, but I've got an armrest that kind of works, so we might be able to. Are they interchangeable? Yeah, it looks like they would be interchangeable, in fact. So we might be able to switch that around. And like I say, if it's not too much trouble to change out those uppers, I would like to reuse that upper. And then at that point, then I'll take the base, whatever base and upper I don't use, I'm going to throw them in a garbage bag, seal them up tight, keep the mice out of them, with some dryer sheets and whatnot, and we'll tuck those away. I mean, this non-air seat isn't worth a whole lot of anything, so it's not like I'm going to try to sell it. I'm going to toss it out in the school bus, bag up the upholstery. You never know when it might come in handy, or might find somebody who could use it, whatever. But we'll just save what we don't use, and we'll make one good seat for my wife. You can see the difference in those bases, man. A lot more width for my fat butt over here, and she's a diminutive little woman, so she'll fit much better in this seat. So anyway, let's see what we can change out. All right, guys, so here's where I'm at. So we've got a pile over there of things we will no longer be using. So there's the old base, the old seat pad, and a couple trim pieces. That's the base we're going to use, so it's good, ready to go on. And then that's the rest we don't want to use, because it's a little dingy and nasty from being a driver's seat. Whereas this one, you can see, well, maybe you can't, but see up there, it's kind of dark and dingy and nasty, and even through the stitching. Whereas here, stitching's nice and bright, and pretty clean all the way around. So that's the one we want to use. So what I'm running into, though, is that so the frames mount up the same. So this will bolt to the air seat base either way. The adjustments on the same side would be on your left side as you sit in the seat, no matter what. I would really like to give my wife an armrest, though, even though it does have some holes in the front, but oh well.
And so the seats do have provisions though for the armrest to be on, it was on your left side as a passenger seat and on your right side as a driver's seat. Whereas the new Air seat has twin armrests. So what I'm looking at doing then, the other problem is that this passenger side, the pivot for the armrest is broken. The welds are snapped inside. Some of that metal on the main support is torn. I don't really feel like getting in there and welding it. In order to do that, I'd have to pull the cover off. So, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. But what we're going to start with is pulling the cover off, seeing what we got. I could always just switch the cover over, but then the armrest is still on the wrong side. So it might get more obvious what we can fix once we're in there, since we do have one good post. Now, the other thing I found is that the reason this armrest wouldn't stay up on me is because of this right here. Those welds have snapped. So we got to grind that clean. Nice, easy weld job. Everything else looks pretty good. What was happening was, so it allows, I've got that screw threaded out, but what it does is as it comes down, it catches on that dog right there. Well, what was happening with the welds broken is that was moving out like that and letting it slip. So once we're back in place, you can see that dog hits right on that set screw, and we'll be good to go. So we're gonna probably pop that out, grind it off, obviously, get it clean, and weld it back in. So boom, 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 no problem. All right, well, that wasn't half bad. We were able to just pull the covers off, and bada bang, bada boom.
Well, guys, check this out. I got these up on the table on the bench to start welding and grinding. Here's the passenger seat. It has, both these seats had receivers for armrests on both sides. So this is as simple as we're just going to use the driver's seat frame here. We don't have to do any welding. All we have to do is make that little tack repair right there. Then we'll use the good cushion out of the passenger seat on that back with the good cushion cover out of the passenger seat and reassemble. Well, I just made life easier.
Okay, guys, so what I did was I actually just hammered those old welds back in because they had torn the steel. This orients it exactly where I want it. It's actually pretty snug. This is just a corner weld. This is not structural per se, so I'm gonna tie back in those old beads where they tore through, and then do some little tacks on the other sides, and we'll call it good. Good as new. All right, guys. Well, there is finished product number one. We got my wife's Air seat all done. Other than we got to make a bottom plate for it, of course. But we'll get to that in due time. I've got to make sure. I didn't love the way the fasteners were in the floor, so that might be a little bit of work getting that to be right. And because this winter, I have no need to carry a passenger before the time comes when I'm going to run the overhead and do injectors, hopefully, in this truck. So that seat is going to be in the way for the doghouse to come out. So there's no reason to put that back in. So I'm going to cover it up with a garbage bag so the barn cats don't make a holy mess of it. But it is ready to go. The seat, I put a little air in it, so it's bouncing up and down good. The armrest holds the way it should. Holds down in position. That is adjustable, but I think we got it right where we want it. So it sucks somebody drilled some holes in it for one reason or another, but whatever. It's still an old work truck, right? It can't be perfect. So I did secure the back. These Ford seats, I don't know if they were just these National seats or whatever, but they flipped up in the back, and it allows you to get to the fasteners to take the cushions off. And what I did was I permanently put it in this setting right here, which gives you, pulls the cushion the farthest forward and at the highest angle, which I think is the most comfortable. It also allowed me to do I know this is really classy, but do a bracket like that. Don't look at that. It's not classy, but it will never be seen again because it's, it's a day cab. So we've got a back wall of the cab right there. But what would always happen was if I hit the brakes hard or let out off throttle on a shift, she'd come flying forward because she doesn't weigh very much. She's 5'1" and tiny, and she'd flip forward on the seat. So that is no longer an issue. Lumbar's back where it belongs, ready to bolt in and go to town. So I'll take you out now and show you the big new seat in the truck. All right, well, there it is installed. Again, I don't think we could have matched that shade on the leather, any better. This is why I love working on semis, guys. Everything's just uniform, the bolt pattern for the base, the seat belt. Oh, that one. There was a dog that was, we could do some welding and solve that. We could also do some zip tying that might solve it, but regardless, it's not high on my priority list. Now, it looks to me like the armrest will in fact work with the door closed, but we will find out here in a second. I have not sat in this yet. I did have to let some of the air out in order to get the seat belts bolted in, so it's probably going to be too low for me, but let's get up in here. Well, it's all the way down. There's no air in it, but man, well, the door closes. Look at that. Literally, it touches the door armrest as it goes down. But, and I might still want to use the door armrest, but I got options now. We got this one. Whew. That is comfy. That is real comfy. That is a massive improvement. I think maybe my throttle leg won't hurt so bad on those long trips anymore. Man, I wish I had some air in here. The truck doesn't have air in it right now because when I released the feed line for the old seat. And I'm not gonna bother hooking that back up at the moment because I have to get some different fittings on Tuesday when I go back to work, because previously, if you can see it back in there, right there, previously obviously there was just a single feed coming up through that bulkhead fitting, and we are going to go to a double, so I got to get some, that tells me that one's long enough, so I'll also get a union for the other side, extend that line over, and put a T right here, so we've got a hot air feed, if you will, to both seats. But man, I'm talking about, I tell you what, that is an upgrade right there, fellas. For $200 all day long. Love it. All right, fellas. Well, it's not going to look like it necessarily when you're watching this, but this little video here is dragging out over the course of, I don't know, at least a couple weeks. I've lost track of time. But the point being that right now, the next stage in the process of what I want to cover in this video is we got to work on the heater core on the L9000. It doesn't put out very good heat. I think it's clogged, at least partially. And it sits a little crooked from remember that whole thing where that truck's been wrecked? Yeah, well, heater core is a little loose. It doesn't match up with the drain anymore for the AC, so it drips on the floor. We got to fix that. We're going to rust out floors. It leaks air. It doesn't connect to the vents right. It's a friggin' mess, to be perfectly honest. So
regardless, we got to work on that. We got a couple gauges to mess with. And that's probably about it for now. But regardless, it's cold out. It's like a high. It's going to come above freezing. But I think it's 33 for the high today. It's going to be 33 for like about 38 minutes, you know, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I don't feel like dealing with it. Not when I've got this shop that I just kind of redid a whole bunch of stuff to. I got a bunch of added lighting. I got new benches. I got vices mounted, air tools, and the most important part, that furnace up there. It's nice and quiet. It heats the crap out of this barn. And I don't feel any reason to have a heated barn and not friggin' use it. So it takes about 5 minutes to get the stacks off of that truck. So come along with me. Let's pull the stacks, and we'll let the air out of the front suspension, dump it out, and we are going to clear that. I'll let you guys guide me, but we're going to clear that door by about 1.5 inches, and let's get that thing inside. It hasn't been in here for a year almost, so let's get after it. She's in. It's been a long while since you guys saw this, or since I saw this truck in this shop. But the air ride makes it so I do not have to barely, like, I mean, I'm talking by 1 inch or less, do I not have to let any air out of the steers. But she does in fact clear. I literally, you probably saw me in the video, maybe had to block the door up so it didn't have any sag whatsoever. But we're in with room to work, and it's It's a balmy 58 even after opening that door up. So nice and comfy. I can hear my temporary air fitting over there is definitely leaking on that air seat, but man, that thing is comfy. First time I drove it with it. Man. So this is our problem child. So I'm gonna start, you can see. That's why it doesn't seal, and then I don't know if you guys can see up there. Oh, I turned the damn light on. It's a little better. You can see that gap right there. That's supposed to, or not right there. Well, anyway, yes. Yeah, there's a hole, and there's a hole, but they don't connect. So even after I get this thing flushed out and working, it's not letting heat go through to the vents where it should. So we're gonna get this cover off. We're gonna get the hood up and see what we need to do some unbolting and you know, what we got to do to shim and make this thing right again. Probably gonna have to pull the air box off, and anyway. All right, well, we've got the air box removed. See it behind my ladder there. That was a pain in the butt. Mostly just, it's poor access, but you can see that's the kind of stuff we're working with on this truck, this cab. It's been, you know, you can see the, I think I've showed you guys this before, but there's the, generally that area where you can see that deformation in the window seal. That's where this other A pillar was welded in. And all the damage is here. So clearly this thing, again, like I said before, was in a hard front end hit. It pushed the front hood in right here and screwed all that up. So so what we're dealing with, let me get some light on here for you. You know, we've got one mounting bolt right there for the heater core. I don't even know if it's attached. Then we got that guy right there. I don't know what that is for. You know, I don't even know what's really holding this thing on. For all I know, it might be the freaking hoses. You know? Definitely flexes with the hoses. So anyway, I did just check this mixing valve here. That does work very freely. Let's see, I can move it from here. That cable works great with the controls from the heater, so that's not the issue of not letting enough heat through. I'm assuming that this gate valve down here works. I can't guarantee that. It does open and close all the way. It goes from stop to stop and spins pretty dang free. So I'm assuming that it works. So I valved that back off. I'm going to find some bolts that are approximately the right size right now, so I'm prepared. And then we will get the these heater hoses pulled off and make a mess, basically. And then at that point, we can start undoing some bolts and seeing about getting this thing out. What I'd like to do is completely remove it, see what I'm working with in terms of mounting holes, both inside and outside of the firewall, see about getting some of these holes cleaned up and sealed up if at all possible while I'm in this process. And hopefully, you know, obviously get it remounted securely. And then while the heater core's out, the whole heater assembly's out, we will we'll take it outside and put the hose to it, or inside down in the my wash tub in the basement or something. But we'll run some pressure through it and try to flush this thing, because I have a feeling it is clogged, and that's the root of the problem. Not leaking, but clogged. So keep. All right, well, I'm back. As you can see, there's nothing sticking through anymore, and we can see some interior through there, meaning we got the heater box off. God, I love big trucks. It was a pain in the ass, don't get me wrong, but nowhere near the pain in the ass of like a pickup truck or a car. I've had cars I've done heater cores on, specifically Volkswagens, that were, you know, book time in the neighborhood of 12 to 14 hours, you know, because it's 100% dash removal. A pain in the ass. This I've got like, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour into, with walking back and forth to get tools and not using the right tools and all that good shit. And even with taking off rusty old fasteners on a smashed up truck. So anyway, it's off. I definitely, when I undid the refrigerant lines, I definitely, you know, properly recovered that coolant, because I want to save global warming, I use my recovery equipment here.
How dare you!
So anyway, that's off. And but the more important thing is, I think we found why it's not working so hot. There is a mouse just freaking palace in here. It also explains why I can't keep this truck clean. You know, from trying to get, you know, every time I use the heater or the AC, it blows dust all over everything. Well, we now know why, don't we? Let's get this thing out of the truck and down over here on the bench or floor or something and see what we see. Okay, so here's where we're at. We're disassembled, and you know, all looks pretty good. So our biggest problem with why this thing wasn't sealing, I didn't show you a very good job where I split it in half, but you can see if you look at these fasteners, we've got along the top especially 1, 2, 3, and then on the bottom 4, and a 5th down here where those mating surfaces, the fastener mount holes were broken out. So that was allowing that case to split in half. So it wasn't so much that the heater core and the heater itself were pulling away from the firewall, it was that the front half of the case was, which was causing it also to not seal. So that might not be all of it, but that's a good part of it. So obviously I'm not going to try to source another back half of this case. They're probably out there, but we can make some tabs and draw those in and keep them nice and tight, and probably put a little sealant in there too, I'm thinking. But that's that. You know, front half of the case is pretty perfect, to be honest with you. There's a little rust down around where that condenser's been leaking around the seal there, but we can clean that up, and yeah, everything looks pretty darn good. We got to work on that latch there, get that freed up. It's a vent basically, and then the I don't know if you call this the condenser or whatever, but the AC condenser. Let me get you out a little bit here, guys. The AC condenser and the fan motor and gerbil cage there and all that looks pretty good. I know that fan works. It's been replaced once because you can see it's got the heat shrink butt splices that were never heat shrinked. We'll check into those, see if they need to be redone, but which is kind of stupid because the factory provided for plugs, so I don't know why they didn't. Well, actually, I don't understand that. It probably was an aftermarket part, so it just came with a short lead. But anyway, what I do see is that the way the bi-level vent works in an older cable-controlled vehicle like this is you got your heat and your AC slide, and it controls that valve. It's dual control, so it moves, and right at the control point, there's like a 3-way, if you want to call it, slider, and that allows it to control 2 cables. One of those cables is the one that I showed you earlier that's up on the firewall, and it basically valves off the heat. And then there's this one that opens and closes these doors here, and it is kind of working, kind of not. It's rusted tight, so we gotta get some lubricant on that and lube it all up. And then all these fasteners that hold the 2 cases together were a mishmash of everything. Somebody's been in here before and probably screwed it up when they replaced that the heater core or the fan motor. But we're gonna clean everything up, tighten everything up. I think I've got some stick-on foam we can clean up and where these mating surfaces go. And this is the the core itself. What do you think about that, guys? Back when heater cores were heater cores, actual copper tanks, and this thing has got some weight to it. Shit, that thing's worth a little bit of money, a few bucks there, compared to the modern day plastic tank aluminum junk. This thing is awesome. This is when things were built real still. But anyway, I flushed it, took it inside, flushed it with hot water. It's in beautiful shape. It ran clean. Just got a little tiny bit of debris out of it, more so just on the outside, but that thing's good to go. I think with that stuff getting out, sealing this all up, we'll do a little HVAC renovation here, and I think this thing's gonna kick out the heat and the AC now. And I went out and I decided we don't need to
half-ass this. So rather than trying to wipe it down and all that, I took it outside. We degreased everything. Hooked the hose up, even though it's wintertime, and we got her nice and clean. So got that sitting in the heat in here. Did the same thing for the vents. Got the vents working. Yeah, it's pretty rusty, but they're gonna work. Just power wash, not power wash, but power hosed everything off with some degreaser. While that's all drying, I'm gonna jump up here into the cab, and we're gonna take care of 2 loose ends on this dashboard. One is I gotta check out these heater controls and make sure that all the cables are free and working. The other is I'm gonna replace that boost gauge. That's a 20 PSI unit, and we're gonna replace it with, I can't remember, it's either 30 or 35 PSI. And then that pyrometer, we're gonna permanently fix those wires that keep coming loose on it, so it works properly. So I'm gonna get on that. Okay, well, we have a new boost gauge, 35 PSI. Haven't started the truck yet to test it, but we're good. Pyrometer is harness extended, functioning. I can just turn the ignition on to check for that, and it drops right back to 0, so we're good there. Lights all work, everything's good. I also I got all the cables working on the HVAC. You can see actually this one over here, this one that's hanging. If I move it, ooh, there we go. That one was in op. And part of the problem, actually, I lubed everything up in here, so this all is nice and free now. Both of them, freaking proper. But I beat up my hands in there. You can see cuts all over my dang hands. Not fun. I have giant hands too, so it doesn't fit very well. But everything's functional now, and we should have very good heat control. The defrost door works. The blend doors. Everything works, which is awesome. And now that we have good intake air, and we're gonna have everything cleaned and flowing, man, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be an awesome change. So with that, now that I've burned like an hour or two, let's get back to the HVAC box. Okay, well, progress being made. I can't show you, but there was a couple screws missing too. I think it's whoever did this blower motor replacement last time, probably back in the late 90s or whenever it was. Just didn't know what the hell they were doing. I don't know if they tried to, I have a feeling they tried to do it in the truck, and they just did not. This is designed to come out. It's not a big deal to pull it out. So anyway, we got some fasteners that were missing back in. We've got the core back in. All the rubbers, the isolators were all in pretty good shape. That's all back and cleaned and done. Did find a bunch of just dust, dryer lint type debris in the condenser there. So we got that all clean. This is the only downfall. That one's rusted out, just the frame of it, but it will sit, once it's sitting the way it should, it'll sit in that little notch right there and still operate. So you can see though that now, just with, if I can grab it, if I grab this rod up here, the cable's going to pull on, just with very little effort, I can open and close those. And that's also then opening and closing, because there's a second rod down there you can see, so we're turning that rod as well as down here. And it's also moving the blend door from the heater core. So everything's working. Now I've sprayed some 3M, trying to get just this foam to sit back where it should. I don't know if it's going to stick or not, because everything's kind of wet, but I also freed up the vent door and the handle. That works the way it should now, so that'll wash it off. So we'll give it a little extra lube right now, just to keep it free. But we'll try to get that stuck back into place so it fits properly. Once we get that on, then we can work on redoing all these fasteners. And once that's done, we're ready to throw it back in the truck, hook it back up. All right, there we go. Reassembled. Seals good. Doors all work. Gaps are nice and tight. Got new hardware. Had to make a fun little washer there for that one. But otherwise, we were able to use washers. Vendor washers in different sizes. So all quarter 20 hardware now, new, non-rusty, and nice and tight. So let's take it over to the truck and see if this thing fits back in. Okay, so we have a good opportunity here to
clean things up while this is all out too. So I put some, it's used, but regardless, put some split loom around our wire pack. I put a grommet, I gotta get a screwdriver on that to finish pushing in. We put a grommet around that cable that didn't have one and was wearing through it. Put a plug right there, which corresponds to nothing. That leaves us with 1, 2, 3 mounting holes, which are good to go. Then AC, other AC up there, and then lower and upper. Well, I don't know why I can't think of it now, but lower and upper heater core. The problem is that guy that's just huge. Somebody, it looks like they drilled about 1,000 holes. I don't know if they couldn't get it to line up after the wreck. I don't even know. But it ain't gonna work for me. So we have no sealant basically around both the upper and lower heater core lines. So what I'm gonna try using, and you guys might laugh at me, is this stuff. This is for, you put it around like entries for plumbing and electrical on the outside of a house. It kind of stays flexible. You know, I don't know. That's all I can come up with. So I'm going to pre-install it around these lines a little bit. This upper one needs a lot. It needs to go out quite a ways. And other lower one just needs a little bit. But, you know, it lets me pre-install it, and it stays somewhat flexible. And then once we tighten everything down, it'll squeeze that, and I can add some from the outside. You know, it's nothing I can grommet, so this is my best bet. We'll see what happens. So, side note, it's the next day. I've dicked around looking for parts for this dang thing for part of the day. This cable is junk. I've got it just friggin' rigged. You can see. Those do actually work pretty good for cable clamps, though, if it'll focus. The small size, about the smallest size of insulated wire clamp type things. They work pretty good for grabbing cables nice and tight, but they don't work when the end of the cable's all messed up and you tried to modify it. That doesn't work. That cable has been clamped into the frickin' doghouse in the past, the recent past too. I did it apparently because someone didn't have it routed, so it was prone to get caught. So it's pinched, it's broken up there in 2 other spots closer to the controls, and it's no good. And it's actually the most important one because those flaps that I got working, it controls. It's the blend door basically. It opens and closes the flaps on the intake across the evaporator, and it opens and closes the door leading from the heater core. So it's an important one. It's the main function of the temp control. The temp control also goes up and opens and closes that heater valve outside the firewall. So we got to get that fixed. So I called the Freightliner dealer. Well, first I started at my auto parts store. They couldn't find anything in their Four Seasons book. So what they did find, though, side note, is they found this this thermostat. You can see it's got a broken terminal, which I did, but I think it must have been, you know, it was flimsy. So it was bound to happen. So it actually works. There's nothing wrong with it. I could probably make that work, but I don't want to have something rigged. So we actually matched that. That's available aftermarket. But the cable, no such luck. So I called the Freightliner dealer, you know, and I said, "Hey, buddy, what's the chances of you finding this HVAC control cable?" And he says, "Hey, the chances are great of me finding a part number for it. The chances of that part being available are slim to none." And of course, it was. That cable became no longer available from Ford/Sterling/Daimler in 2008. So, you know, it's only been 15 years since you could buy that cable new. I can't find it cross into anything aftermarket. I can find it close and I look up pictures and stuff, but it's not quite right. So I did find a new old stock cable on eBay that supposedly fits some Sterlings and L9000s and a few other odds and end Fords. And so I got a message into the guy to see if I can get the length of it. Because if I can get the length, if the length is going to work for this application, I can tell from the photo I can make it work. So, long story short, that's the joy of working on old trucks, guys, is sometimes you just can't get stuff. So, especially when it's a Ford. You know, because Ford sold their heavy truck division back in, I don't remember, a long time ago, 99, 98, anyway, and then Sterling folded in 2008, which is why all that stuff's no longer available. So I can get to that cable though with the heater box installed, I think. So we're gonna go, and if I can't, whatever, we'll have to take the damn thing down again. So I want to put the back in the meantime. I can reach this, and you know, obviously it's wintertime, so I don't want them open, so I want it in that position right there. That's where I need it. When I get the cable back on, we'll worry about the rest. So I'm gonna go ahead and install this box back up in, and I am gonna move another cable though. That other cable that I put through a grommet there, it's not where it should be. It's getting crushed. So before we get this button back up, we're gonna get that moved too.
All right, so here's the cable in question. I decided to go ahead and just pull it out of the truck so you can see our issues. It's broken there. You know, obviously there's no sheath there. That tab is actually intact. That's on the control side. It's also broken there, a little bit crushed. That's where it went into the doghouse. Broken there. We stayed good for a little bit, and we're broken and crushed again there. Broken again there, and broken at the end. And the tab's completely gone. So it does actually move quite easily. So that's the plus going for it. But anyway, we'll wait to hear back from my eBay buddy, and hopefully, and see what we find. All right, guys. Well, it's about time to wrap this video up. It's getting a little long. I've got the dash pulled back apart because I took that cable out. I'm going to put that back together off camera probably. I do have the heater box back in. It's bolted in along the firewall. Blower motor's hooked back up, and I just went up and tested it from the driver's seat, and good Lord. It actually, the resistor is partially bad. I've got speeds 1 and 2, but not 3. But good Lord, does it blow on that even 2 speed. I don't even think I'm going to bother with the resistor because it looks like it's such a giant pain in the butt to get to. So maybe down the line, it's just under the dash, so nothing that can't be, you know, it's 6 screws to take back out. But at any rate, I think this thing is going to kick butt on heat and AC. It's nice and solid again, and it seals up to all the ducting. I mean, the flapper door is going, it changes from defrost to feet to, you know, blowing at you like no other. And I think those temp controls are going to work great once we get these couple cables and whatnot changed out. I've got everything, the resistor, or not the resistor, but the thermostat and the cable are over on the bench, so I can double check when the parts come in what they are. And last thing I'm doing is these old, my 2 heater hoses are, you know, you could feel these, they're rough and dry rotted. So while we got coolant out of this heater core, they both terminate right here at these 2 steel lines. So we're going to change those 2 heater core hoses out going up to the core. So we've got, I happen to have some nice fresh brand new soft hose sitting on the shelf, so we're going to get that done. All right, guys, so that being said, I'm going to finish buttoning this up, so we don't make this video be like 108 minutes long. I'm gonna finish that up off camera, but we accomplished a lot. We got an awesome seat. We've got heat and AC. Fingers crossed anyway. I think they're going to work great. And just slowly plugging away at this truck to try to make it what it once was back in 1987. So appreciate you guys watching. Look forward to more content coming your way soon. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. Appreciate you.